Hi, my name is Brenda Bates, Medicine Woman, and this is Medicine Women Reveal. And I have with me
Jen Toffel, Medicine Woman.
And
Scott Bates,
The Apprentice, which is my husband. So we're delighted that we're able to do this show on Sepia. And it's very interesting because we get to show a different side of us that we really haven't shown ourselves before. So I just was listening to the last episode, the show before us, and he's talking about EMF readers. And what's funny is the question, or I hear Spirit says, how to become an EMF reader physically. So this is what happened today. I'm listening to Jen talk back and forth, and all of a sudden I got this feeling that she's going to leave me. And I'm thinking, what? Why in the world would I be thinking that? And so then it just happened. We went and done our show, and it was happening again. Finally, I said to my husband, what the heck's going on? What do you think? And he says, sounds like abandonment. And I said, okay, so now that we defined the emotion that created the feeling, and so then I says, Jen, what may you be thinking? Because I need to know, really. Because I checked my soul, I checked myself, and I was not thinking or believing or made a decision that Jen was going to leave me. That's why I couldn't tap into it to heal it. So,
well, I wonder if you had healed it, because we talked about it last week. We got real as far as being business partners and that kind of thing. About you have nurtured people and then they leave.
mm-hmm.
You have said, okay, I really want them to be able to do this. I support you. I'm helping teach you. And then you get them going, and then they but then they bail out. But
one thing is that some of those that I've nurtured were intended to move on. And what you're referring to is those that said they wanted to do business with me.
right.
Okay, so go ahead.
Right. So then I'm now in that position of we're business partners. We're going to do this, and then is this going to happen? Well, then we got real and did some healing on that stuff. And then last night I think I was working on abandonment, about how I abandon myself, how I do self-sabotage, how I want to be successful and I want to do these things. I've got all this potential. I've got a huge support system. But at the same time, I still manage to do self-sabotage and abandon myself and do these things. We call it cutting off the nose to spite the face.
Yeah. And
so then last night, I worked on that stuff, and I'm like, okay, I wonder what today's going to be. And then I've got an experience coming up where I'm going to be going out of town.
Yes.
And I've manifested this trip, and but I still have some of the guilt of, oh my gosh, is this going to be the first foot out the door where Brenda feels like I'm bailing out?
Because she won't be back in time for my other radio show at 2 p.m.
Right.
on Monday.
I could
and that's where, the question is, because nobody's answered it, nobody brought up the question. And so she was thinking this.
Right, so all this stuff was going through my head, and then it was, okay, so I'm going out of town, and, what's planned is going to be just a fun weekend getaway kind of thing. Then it started realizing that that's what it's going to be. I started tapping into old thoughts of people's judgment, of I'm reckless, based on the idea of knowing how these scenarios have happened in the past, that and I know that you don't feel this way, but because we're friends, there's the potential that I could feel the judgment of you're reckless, you're wasting money.
But you also know I don't do that because it's not necessary. It's part of your factor of who you are.
Right. And so then we got real as far as like all those people in the past that I have felt, and it's the feeling. I feel that they feel this way about me, that I don't give a crap, that I'm reckless, that I make stupid decisions, that I'm just going to go off half-cocked and just do whatever, and it doesn't even matter.
And I didn't pick that part up. What I got was that I felt like, she's not even going to be here for me. And I thought, wait a minute, whether she is or she's not, it'll come in alignment when it's supposed to be. And that's what kept throwing me off. I'm like, why do I feel like this is mine, but I know it's not mine? And I kept making chemical peptides that said, it's my stuff. But I know myself well enough that it couldn't be. So, when I asked you, you're looking at me like, yeah. Yeah, it was me.
It was me. I was thinking those things.
I said, oh, it's great that your spirit can tattle on you. So the thing is that where does the boundary for you end, and where do you
begin?
end, and where do the other people begin?
Right, it's just because you've got that skin thing, and I've talked about how we're blow-ups walking around in our meat suits, and it could be very easily seen that you're that person over there, and I'm this person over there.
I could totally believe that it was my thoughts. Like I said, I know myself, and what we're referring to is that even if two people are in the same room, whatever she's thinking, I'm creating the chemical peptides and reacting in this fashion. But what do you do when you go into strange places? Like, I had gone with you to your summer camp. And the retreat center, and where there was nobody there.
Right, and we say the veil is really thin at that place.
Yes.
And people have had a ton of otherworldly experiences there.
And I haven't been there to see the whole thing, so she walked me through all of it, and it was very fascinating. We get to one room, and you started telling me about how the girls would react in the past.
Traditionally during summer camp, that area is for the girls who are 5 to 8 years old, who, this may be their first camp experience. They're away from home. They're even just all the way across the camp from their parents, which feels so far away. And so there's homesickness. There's all these thoughts of, oh my God, of all this fear.
And I felt all those. But out among all of those, because when you get going, you start to recognize the frequencies of what is leftover thoughts, thought forms, just stuff that's there, or what the place is designated to be. And during that, there was something particular in the middle of the room. Even a picture of an orb that looked like it was talking to me in my ear, because I was channeling light energy, or light language. So I can't remember what happened now.
Well, we cleared the spot. We cleared it.
That
was the intention, was to clear the areas around the camp that really had some of the darkest energy.
And in this case, it was not, what do you want to call it? There was nothing there to have to be afraid of anything. Someone asked me, is there anything demon there? Again, demons are just your thoughts. It's how you believe in it. It's how much fear you put into it. It's all of these things, because this is an illusion. You get to cast whatever you want in this illusion and have it show up. So, we just cleaned it up, and it was actually a good time. And I think we freaked out one of our friends that was with us.
Yes.
Because he took pictures, but he stood really far back. And it's like, okay. But when you go into spaces, it's sometimes it's hard to tell which is which. Like, for instance, we will always have a Reiki attunement or something like this, and you will feel cold spots, and those are past Reiki attunement students, or the Reiki helpers, or the teachers, or people come in visits, or the masters are there, and it usually can feel cold. But for me, spirits are very much alive. It's like I take on Paley's energy. I mean, I really get hot. And I start to overheat to some degree, and I can always tell when that there is a lot of energy that wants to move through me and wants to communicate with me. So there was one time for you, and would you like to share that one time? Because I think it's hilarious, because you freaked out your ex-husband so bad. He could have wet himself. Hee hee hee.
Okay, so being a medium is
fun.
It's
but not for the husbands.
Yeah, not for the partners. Well, it can be for the partners. So, so my ex-husband. So we were. It was interesting because it was the weekend that medium Sunny Dawn Johnston came to town, and my ex-husband's grandpa died that weekend. And I wondered if she saw him and that kind of thing, and she didn't, but, you know, I knew he was around, and then at that thing she had given some little angel cards or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's good, relationship and courage. I'm like, I wonder why I'm getting those cards. You know, now, no, he's my ex-husband, so I realized why I got those cards. So we went, so the next week we went to his grandparents' house preparing for the funeral. And what was interesting was at his grandparents' house, that it was like his grandpa could walk through the door at any time. He was so present in that space. That was grandpa's space, and it was so palpable. His presence was there even though he physically wasn't there. So, and I kind of stalled. I didn't want to go to bed. I didn't know what was going to, my soul probably knew what was going to happen. Well, so my,
consciously, it was just another night of that, how life is, husband and I are going to go to bed, and blah, blah, blah. And
right, and we're having this argument, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, now his grandpa could really see that we're arguing. I'm like, sorry, grandpa, we argue. But anyway, so we were getting ready to go to bed, and I really didn't want to go to sleep, and I was, you know, tossing and turning, and just, it's like I could feel that something was going to happen. And it did. So in the middle of the night, I'm having this dream, and I can feel myself as a little girl in the, I can't remember if I talked on this show about the church that I grew up in, that old Gothic building, but I was at that age and I could feel myself there, and Grandpa was there, and I could hear myself as a little girl saying, no, 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 you can't make me do that, I'm not gonna, Grandpa. And I hear all of a sudden my voice start saying, I am Grandpa. And and I can't wake up. And all I know is that I'm like that little girl and I can't wake up, but I'm hearing and feeling his presence freak the crap out of me saying, I am Grandpa. And that is so not his personality. But in the dream it was. And I was desperately trying to wake myself up. I could hear and feel myself knocking on the wall, trying to wake myself up. And then I hear myself saying to my ex, wake me up. Wake me up. Just wake me up. And I'm feeling like I'm screaming. And then finally I hear him say, Jen, wake up. Jen, wake up. And I wake up and I'm like, oh, thank God you woke me up. And he's over, we had twin beds, he's over in his bed with his comforter, like pulled up to his eyelids, going, what in the hell just happened? I'm like, I'm so glad that you woke me up. He goes, I didn't want to, because you're not supposed to do that, like people who sleepwalk and stuff like that. You're not supposed to wake them up, but you were begging me. And I'm like, wasn't I knocking on the wall at one point? He goes, yes. And I'm like, well, wasn't Grandpa here? He goes, I heard him. He's like, oh, and I'm going, oh my God, I don't want to go back to sleep. I don't want to go back to sleep. Please don't make me go back to sleep. So then the next morning, his mom says, yeah, I heard some weird, like, knocking noises going on in that room, and I wondered what was going on. I'm like, oh, well, gee, thanks for coming to help rescue the situation, because I felt, if I wasn't asleep, I felt like I was going to pass out. But he was just over there going, oh God, oh my, and he was whispering, he was going, Jen, wake up.
Too scared to use his voice.
And I'm sitting, and it sounded very audible, like, Jen, wake up. And so it was like, and he's over there going, well, that was interesting. Anyway, so.
That is funny.
Just another day in the life.
I'm not sure exactly when we're supposed to go to commercial. Now here's an interesting thing. I've kind of grown up with strange, bizarre occurrences, and then when I started in 1996, I really got to learn all about the labeling of, ghost, spirit, and all that stuff. One thing that my husband and I, when we rekindled of who we were, decided to get in sync with one another. And he happened to be walked away. Okay, when we got in sync, me and Jen and him decided to go to a restaurant, and we're sitting there during the restaurant, and I'm feeling very funny. I said, something's wrong with me. Oh my God. So we go outside. I literally now can't drive, so I have to give the keys to my husband and says something's definitely wrong.